In today's episode, I interview Anne Marie Morales. She's a channeler, a multidimensional energy master, which is another way of saying Reiki master, and she explains why she chooses that title rather than just simply saying Reiki master. And she's a hypnotherapist. I came across her on TikTok. I saw some content in which some of her clients were bringing through messages about our ascension. Um, as humanity, and I thought, well, she's going to be perfectly aligned for my show. And you'll find out later in the interview that there was actually some synchronicity involved here. Anne Marie is a friend and part of the community of Carol Morgan, who was an interview I did very early on in this podcast, and I had no idea she was affiliated with Carol at all. And I just thought that was pretty cool. We both said that's a bit of a synchronicity. Wink from the universe that it's a very small world indeed, and that this interconnectedness that we're always talking about truly is real. One of the other things I want to mention is we had trouble with the connection during this interview quite a bit. There were a couple times in which I lost her altogether, and I've had to do some heavy editing. I don't have a very sophisticated system for editing. I'm doing the editing myself. So sometimes you can actually hear where things got clipped. Other times we're talking about it a little bit, the fact that, oh, I lost you there, or whatever I said, but I just left that in. I don't think it really hurts anything. Anne Marie, just wanted to let you know I did the best I could with this, and the interview I still think is very much worth publishing. There's some great information in there, and Anne Marie, you did a great job. So the following is my interview with Anne Marie Morales. But before we get in there, I do want to ask that if you are enjoying this content, to please like and subscribe to the show. It's what's going to help me grow this show and bring you more awakening content like this. Anne Marie, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very
Yes.
much.
Well, thank you. As I'd said in the introduction, I was listing off all of your qualifications and the things that you do, and I've spoken to channelers before and Reiki practitioners, but
hmm
never a metaphysical energy master. And you and I had talked about what that meant, but for our audience, why don't you explain what that means?
Okay, so pretty much what I have personally developed has grown out of Reiki, but it is my own kind of modality. I live in the state of Florida, and in the state of Florida, Reiki has been regulated. So there was this huge thing, and they consider Reiki to be touch therapy. And if you know Reiki, you know that there is no space and time. You know that energy is infinite. But nonetheless, they have regulations. And if I advertise that I offer quote unquote Reiki, and the Department of Health comes to find me, I could be fined quite a lot of money. So, for all intents and purposes, I do not perform Reiki. I perform a multi-dimensional energy service.
Oh,
And so, considering I have been a Reiki master teacher, and I've been a Reiki master teacher for 9 years, I consider I can put that title master there. A lot of spiritual people are like, you're not a master of anything. That's true. I mean, whatever. But if you're a chef and you're really good at what you do, you can call
yeah,
yourself a master chef.
yeah.
And I mean, I really love what I do. And I've had, hundreds and hundreds of clients over the years. And that's the title that I've given myself. So
Okay.
does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And you'd actually kind of talked about the dimensional aspect of it. Now, those are different dimensions of a person's being. Is that what you mean when you say
Right.
multidimensional? Could you explain that a little
Yeah.
bit?
So when I tap into people's energy, so what I do is I read energy. And when I get into someone's energy field, let's say there's dense energy there, and I feel it very viscerally in my body. I will cough. I'll do this weird kind of cough that shows me that this person has very dense energy in their chakra region, or in general in their entire energy field. And then what happens is when I tap into the individual chakras, I will actually get a sense of where this density is coming from. So I've been able to discern whether or not it's coming from the individual's actions or inactions, or if it's unnatural to them. I get this feeling that it doesn't make sense with their energy. So I could discern, let's say, if it's coming from a previous incarnation or a parallel incarnation or a past life, however you want to call it. And I can also discern if it is a foreign energy, if it is either an implant or an attached energy. So, and then I'm able to assist them from there. So that's what I say when I work in multiple dimensions at the same time.
What I wasn't going to ask this, but it piqued my curiosity. What kind of cues do you get that allow you to discern whether it's an attachment, whether it's something they did, whether the energy belongs to them or not?
Hmm.
What's going on with you?
That's a very fair question. So, I am intuitive. I am an intuitive.
Hmm.
And I have learned to trust my intuition, what I'm feeling. If something doesn't feel right, then I keep investigating. If I'm feeling calm and at peace, then I trust that it's at calm and at peace. But I just get a sense in my body. That's really all that I can tell you is I just get this intuitive sense like, something is not right here. And then I'll just tune into it a little bit more. And then I'll begin to pull in downloads, or I'll begin to see images, or I'll begin to, you know, and I'll work with the client too. So, I do not consider myself like a psychic that I can go into the quantum field and project future or look at future probabilities. But I just work with my client and I'll ask them questions like, for example, do you consider yourself somebody who like reacts too quickly? Because I'll feel that in me, and I'm not going to go and say, you react too quickly. That's inappropriate. So I just work with my clients in the moment, and that's how I intuit,
Okay,
really.
fair enough.
Hmm.
So, have you always, because you said you were a school teacher for 20 years, is that right?
About 18 years. Yeah, it was like
Okay.
third, fourth career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So had you always had these abilities that you were aware of? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you have had them since you were little, it'd just be normal. So you wouldn't even thinking, oh, I have abilities. But at what point did you realize, oh, I have maybe a heightened sense for things that maybe other people don't? What point in your life were you aware of it?
Yeah. I think I was always able to feel uh, deeply into someone's reaction, whether or not it was like, let's say, an honest reaction, or I hate to use the word dishonest, or maybe they just weren't being truthful. Um, so I've always had that ability. I didn't know it was called being empathic. So now I have a title for it. So I'm very empathic. And as a teacher, it served me well because I knew when my students were, joking around and when they were serious. So I could tune into that, and that helped me in that way. But not until after my awakening did I really have a language for that. Um, but I can tell you, I've always known because my body would be unsettled. So yeah.
Okay. And since you mentioned awakening, and as I was reading about you
Hmm.
on your website, you'd called it a soul reset. Is that what you're
Yeah.
referring to? Could you
Yeah.
tell that story? What's
Yeah,
that
sure.
about?
So, before my soul reset, I call it a soul reset because literally everything in my life collapsed.
Yeah.
In a series of maybe 5 years, like in one year, I had a miscarriage. I lost a baby. The next year, my marriage fell apart. The next year, I lost my job. The next year, what else happened? I lost my life savings. There were just all these structures that I thought were permanent that just fell apart. So each one of these Yeah, systems that I thought were going to take care of me. In my religion too, like everything like failed me, we can say. So after those 5 years or so, the final straw came when my soon-to-be ex-husband, I found out that he had gotten his girlfriend pregnant. And so I had had a miscarriage maybe 3 years before or 4 years before. And we were married very young, and I had my children in my 20s. I always wanted more kids. So uh, the fact that I got pregnant at 41, I was really happy about it. That was devastating, and I just didn't want to live after that. I was like, screw it. Like, there's no God. There's no nothing. Like, it's all a lie because nobody should go through this kind of pain. Like, it was just way too much for me to have to handle. So, I literally was at my lowest, and it was pretty awful. But at that point, at my lowest, after all of these systems were failed me, that's when I came across my new spiritual practice, and it saved my life. It really did.
And it doesn't sound like, because you're saying, I mean, you describe very well your life just falling apart year
Yeah.
after year, one big thing after another. And it wasn't like you were living recklessly asking for these things,
No.
so each one probably came as kind of like a shock, like where is this coming from?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it just seems, and maybe I'm not the one to say it, you are, but that it was guided that way, almost like this is going to have to happen for her in order for her to have her shell cracked
Hmm.
open. And that's what you're thinking too?
Well, not then.
Yes, yes.
Then I thought that, it was like, God, what do you have in store for me? So, I mean, I came from a very Catholic background and a very deep love of Jesus and a deep love of my faith. So I always had that kind of like, God, what are you doing to me? Like, what's happening? But I was in victimhood, right? So I
Hmm.
was in a victim mentality. Now, looking back over it, one of the saving graces that I have is that knowledge that everything happened exactly as it needed to in order for me to become who I am today. So I needed to go through all that pain. I needed to go through all of that, the disintegration of all my illusions, in order for me to have the breadth and the depth of experience that allows me to help people, that allows me to be further in service. So I was very much in service to others in my before awakening as I am now. It's just transferred form. And now I'm serving so authentically in such a beautiful way. I'm just so grateful and thankful for everything, even the worst times, because I can genuinely look at people and say, look, I know what it's like to be carted away in an ambulance and put on 24-hour watch in the emergency room. Okay, I
Hmm.
know what that's like. I've been through it. And the clients that I have today have deep wounds. And I can't tell you, I needed to go through that in order for me to have the breadth and the depth to hold the space, to hold the healing for these beautiful souls that come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just always, I mean, I shouldn't say always, but for so long now made so much sense to me as in
Mm-hmm.
terms of one of the reasons for why we incarnate at all is that
Mm-hmm.
contrast in order to
Exactly.
expand to the point where we can, in the end, I guess, love deeper, love more deeply, appreciate more deeply. I mean, how
Mm-hmm.
could you if you have nothing to compare heaven to? How are you ever going to, appreciate the grandeur of heaven, the grandeur of God? How's God ever
Correct.
going to know itself without doing this thing that it
Mm-hmm.
seems to be doing here, playing it out these lives of human beings and every other, maybe everything's conscious, I don't know, but every other
Right.
conscious being that we are aware of. So
Hmm.
After the soul reset,
Yeah.
or maybe it's not even over, you know what I mean? But what was the first thing that did you leave how did you leave teaching? I guess I should ask.
So yeah, I I worked for 4 years, married, and then I got laid off. And in that 4 year, and I was laid off for 4 whole years, which was awful. So I worked for 4 years, and in New York State, they give you tenure after 4 years. So I
Mhm.
received my tenure and I received my pink slip. But I was still in on the list. So once they started hiring again, I knew that eventually I would be rehired. So 4 years passed by, and in those 4 years, I was searching for myself because I was no longer somebody's wife. I was no longer a teacher. So truly, I didn't know who I was anymore. So I needed to find answers to questions, and I wanted to learn. And so I've always had a very paranormal kind of life. Um, I it wasn't fun. Like, it wasn't a fun paranormal life. I was really tormented and taunted by a lot of dark energy. So I needed to figure out why that was. And so I began to go to ghost group meetings, joined a ghost hunting team. And then I met psychics and I met mediums. And like, so from a Catholic to going to that, I mean, the Catholics, they're okay with the demonic, they talk about that all the time. So I was always interested in that. I believe my father was very psychic, I think, and I know that I get my gifts from like his side of the family. And I think he knew a lot more and saw a lot more than what he let on to us, but his generation was very quiet about stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I got involved with different people and I learned more. And as I grew spiritually, and like I said, I had that one of instance with when I found out about my ex-husband fathering a child. That was the year that I had just gotten rehired. So I was working at that very moment. Long story short, as I grew spiritually, okay, as I began to elevate my frequency, and as I began to see the truth of what this educational system was, by the time COVID hit, I was already channeling. I already had my YouTube channel. I was already awake and aware that the educational system is really not that great a place for children. And then when COVID came in, and I actually didn't like myself. Like, I did not like myself when I was teacher Anne Marie. I was angry. I was mean. I would put these kids down. And I'm like, who am I? Like, who do I become in order to do this job? I couldn't stand myself in that job. And then when COVID hit and they were asking us to do all this crazy stuff with the children. I mean, some of it was okay, but the other things, the masking and all that, I just couldn't handle it. And I was just saying to God, like, and I would literally say, find me a solution to this. Find me a solution to this. And so as it would happen, my mother had had a stroke, and she had moved in with me and became very, very ill. She was in the hospital for a month, for like the entire month of July one summer. And I was really tired of politics, and I was tired of, I just wasn't, I didn't like myself. So what ended up happening was I took a year leave. I ended up using all of my sick days. I had like almost 5 months of accumulated sick time that I never would have been able to take because, they give you all this sick time, but then if you take it, they make you feel bad. Okay. So I took a year of family medical leave. It was a legitimate reason. I got to take all of that sick time, use it up. I moved my mother, it turns out, back here to this home in Florida. And when that happened, I felt so good. I was like, all right, this is going to happen. So I literally followed my guidance, and my guidance, I was channeling already at the time. My guidance was, come on, Anne-Marie, you know you need to do this. You know you need to do this. And they were nudging me and nudging me. And I was in situations where I was just saying to myself, I can't do this. Find me a solution. So I would always ask the universe, find me a solution. You know me better. Find me a solution. And so basically, I just followed this guidance. And, you know, you run into a fear because you're transitioning from a system into like a free fall. But what my guides always told me was, if you're at a precipice and let's say you're a bungee jumping or something and you've got the harness on, it's always scariest before you fall. But once you fall, it's exhilaration. So I found myself with the guidance of my guides, and actually it was really kind of an amazing story, if you don't mind me sharing it with you right now. There was a day that I made the decision that I was going to take this family medical leave and leave education. So I had been channeling for a few years what I would call the highway guides, because I would drive and channel with my eyes open, and I would call them the highway guides. That's the name I gave them. They never really told me who they were, but I was like, but I got to call you something. And then I saw this sign that said Highway 204 or whatever it was. I was like, ah, the highway guides. I'll call you the highway guides. So I was already doing this, and I had a beautiful routine where I would wake up and do my spiritual work early in the morning, and things were glitching and I wasn't understanding why. I like to use a pendulum, and I was testing my energy and I was using this pendulum, and then all of a sudden there was this confusing shift, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then all of a sudden I started to channel new guides, and I was like, what's happening here? And all of a sudden this new group came in, and they were called the Ra Collective, RA, like the sun god. And they were like, we are Ra, we are the Ra Collective, and we are your new guidance. And I'm like, what? You have chosen to leave behind, your other guides have done their job, basically. So their job was to move me from that part of my existence to transition me into this new, fully given over to spirit world. And when that happened, my guides shifted. And then, of course, the first thing I did was like, get on my iPad and like, guys, and make a video for YouTube. You won't believe what just happened. And when I was trying to explain it, my throat chakra just literally bubbled up, and they came right in, and they were like, yes, we are Ra, we are the Ra Collective. The highway guides have done their job, and yes, they will no longer be her guidance, but we are her guidance now. And I'm like, huh? So like, it was like this huge transformation energetically. And my entire energy system shifted. So when I used my pendulum swing differently. So it was like this really huge thing. So this was like big deal stuff. And I knew it was big deal stuff. But then let's go back to being 3D people, right? Let's go back to real world problems. And I came across a situation where I needed to make money, like I needed to do things, I needed to work. And so I went back into education while I was here in Florida as a substitute teacher. And my guides were very patient. But when I finally was like, oh, and then I found the right occupation for me to do. So then I went last year, I trained to become a certified clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist. So that is now my official title, as well as multidimensional energy master, whatever you want to call me. And I am so happy. So this is across the board for everybody. We are parts of systems, and these systems are put in place by other people. Unless you are strong enough to be who you truly want to be. And unless you're willing to take the steps and have the courage to leave the devil you know for the devil you don't. Okay, that's just a term. Education for me was the devil I knew. It wasn't great, but I knew it. So my ego, my lower three chakras, my sense of stability was happy with that. But my spiritual nature was dead. So I had to find something where I could combine both my spiritual wholeness and my physical wholeness. And I was able to do that through the profession of hypnotherapy. So that's it.
But
Okay.
you were saying so many things that are so close and parallel my life to such detail. What you described, your experience as a teacher, who it made you become, and that you didn't like. I've told that story multiple times on the show, and I had to leave too, specifically for that
You were a
reason.
teacher.
Like, I can't do this. I can't come home to my kids. Yeah, and who I was becoming, my daughter said, "Dad, you don't," we were talking about emotions, and she said, "Dad, you don't really show any emotion except anger." And I was already feeling that was true. And I'm like, I can't be this.
Yeah.
And even what you said about the kids, the way that you were behaving towards the students, I was starting to feel like, oh, I understand how you become a crotchety old teacher. And I'm like, I cannot do that. But I also had to take that leap that you're describing. Now, I don't feel that what I'm doing now necessarily aligns with my soul in probably the way that being a hypnotherapist aligns for you. I'm painting. I'm a house painter.
Nice.
But
Okay.
there's a lot about that does. I work by myself. I have so much more space to have thoughts.
Right.
I'm not responsible for other people's performance anymore. People are always like, why don't you hire somebody? I'm like, well, I don't want to be responsible for their performance, and I don't want to fix their mistakes. But I don't mean to talk about that. It's just hearing you say things like, I believe you said, stick with the devil you know. That was kind of a phrase that you'd been taught. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
That's just something that my wife is always saying that she had been taught, and that she's trying to break free from this idea of, I don't like my situation, but I'm scared that if I leave it, it's going to be even worse. So stick with the devil you know. And I love that you're telling your story about how you transitioned from basically one world to another, because so many people are looking to do that, and they're sticking with the devil they know, though, because they don't have. A lot of them are going to hear this and they're going to say, well, I don't have anything. I'm not channeling anything. Nothing's talking to me that way. Nothing is being my guidance, and it's hard to trust. A lot of people would love to have an experience like that, because it's like, well, if something is speaking to me, then I can at least trust that something's got my back, and I will. There is a net. Something will have me. So what do you say to someone like that if they come to you with that kind of question, like, how do I hone into this guidance?
Right.
Or do I just have to trust blindly?
Well, it wouldn't be something to trust blindly. It's about cultivating the knowledge of self. Okay, it's cultivating the knowledge of self. And I wanted to just make a little comment about someone who really wants to change their whole life situation. If you are in a situation where you literally have resigned yourself to stay with the devil that you know, okay, remember what I said before, that we are in a system that has been set up by others truly to enslave us. Okay, so if you think about educators, for example, we need education. So we go to a university, we get a degree. This is huge investment. I just got my master's degree 11 years ago. Okay. People have look, I paid into this. I'm going to stick with this, even though it's killing me. Well, this is where we've got to look at priority, and we have to look at trust, and whether or not you're willing to be the brave one and you're willing to move from a state. Are you willing to really upheaval everything? It's very scary. It is not for the faint of heart. But I had cultivated a relationship with spirit. And I think it behooves us all to cultivate a relationship with spirit. And what does that mean to you? That means knowing your center, asking for assistance. I always used to say, Lord, give me the path and give me the wisdom to know where to walk. Put the path in front of me and give me the wisdom to know where to walk. It's always been a part of who I am, because I always had this kind of like deep connection with speaking to God and all this kind of stuff. I just do it in a different way now, and in a very one-on-one way. So could you kindly restate your question, because I kind of went off on a tangent.
Well,
But
I think you answered it very well. I was asking what you would say to someone who
mm-hmm,
is wanting to change their life situation, but
mm-hmm,
they don't, they just can't trust that things are going to be okay if they
mm-hmm.
were to just do it.
Yep.
And I like to, if I can get with every guest to get to the heart of that question.
Mm-hmm,
And it's been answered in different ways. It's been suggested by someone else that if you don't trust that you can just make a leap, then start doing the thing that you think you want to do while you're still in one foot in one world, and then start stepping
mm-hmm.
into the other. And
Yep.
I think that that's one where I think a lot of people could probably handle that.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
I I had to just go. Now, I
mm-hmm,
didn't when I left teaching, I happened to be painting with my brother who had a business of his own, and I was
mm-hmm,
talking to him about how much, how you doing with this? Is it supporting you, this or that? And he said, "Yeah, I'm doing just fine." And
mm-hmm.
I made a decision up on a ladder that, okay, I'm leaving, I'm done.
Right.
And then when I did do that, um, I still had a little bit of a cushion too, because my teaching checks were still coming in, because I opted to take them over 12 payments over a year. So in the summer you'd
Mm-hmm,
get paid too. I had two checks left, a slight little cushion to get going.
mm-hmm.
But I still feel like, let's say the universe counted that as an act of, say, courage. Like it wants, I guess it wants to see that. How
Mm-hmm.
serious are you about this, type of thing?
Right.
Because everything I needed to get set up as a painter came to me so
Mm-hmm,
easily. Now, of
mm-hmm.
course, today when you have, Facebook Marketplace and things like that, it's not hard to search, but it was just like everything I needed, a ladder rack, a ladder, a truck, a sprayer, all this stuff just came to me so
Right.
quickly. And then the calls came in immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say I live in a tiny community, which I do. I don't even live in that community. I live outside a small village of 1,300 people, and they have supported me for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing that as I work my way towards something that I do feel is more directly in alignment with my
Mm-hmm.
soul, which one of the things is this podcast. And I feel like
Right.
this is even a step towards something else. I don't know what, and I
Absolutely.
don't feel pressure to figure that out at the moment. I do feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a good spot now. And I
Right.
guess what I would want people to hear is do something, take a step towards something,
Right.
whether it's a big um, leap that requires a lot of faith, or stay where you're at and start doing this thing that you think you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And there's
Yeah.
another thing. I think a lot of people, they don't even know anymore what their passion is. It's like they'll hear things like, well, follow your heart or whatever. And I was one of them, like, I don't even know what that means. I know we say it all the time, but what do you mean follow my heart? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what I want to do.
Right.
And a lot of people are in that boat.
Yeah.
Do you get that with your clients when they come to you, things like that? Or,
Absolutely, because people get lost. They're
yeah.
confused. We live in a very confusing, upheaval kind of time, okay? And really, if you think about who we are fractals of Source. So we are fractals of the Creator, the great Creator. So we are creator beings. So what brings us joy? Usually something that we enjoy creating, whether it be cooking or sewing or painting or singing or whatever it might be. So it's important, number one, to know yourself. So that was my journey when I kind of like was nobody's wife anymore and I wasn't teaching anymore. Like I wanted to know who I was. And that's all I believe what we really need to strive for is to really learn who we are. Why don't you know what you like? Don't you remember when you were a kid? Oh my God, I love this. Mommy, take me there. No, you can't go there. We can't afford it. Well, squash. Okay, so we have to rediscover our love, our joy, our passion, and develop that with yourself. And from those joys and loves and passions, will come something to you. So something that I think is beautiful in your story, and it was also very beautiful in my story, is that, and you can agree with me or disagree, but I believe that we are so divinely guided we are not alone. I had my highway guides. I have my guidance, the Raw Collective. There are and it was, I channeled one time, we have a stadium of beings that are there to support us. What we forget is the universal law, ask and you shall receive. You know, that beautiful phrase, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. We live in a realm that requires action. So part of that action is to ask, hey, guides, or God, or universe, or anybody out there who's listening, I need something. Help me get it. And a lot of times we think, no, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Well, did you have to? You said everything fell into place for you. Everything fell into place for me on many times in my life. And I just know that I am guided. So it's that also, that kind of releasing the need to control everything. That's another trouble that we humans have, you know. We want to be in control. But really in this past maybe 6 to 8 months, in my own personal journey, and I've left teaching now 2 years from when I was substituting here in Florida. In my own journey, it has been trust, let go, just trust. We've got you. And time again, I remind myself, if it's not in my realm, it's not meant to be. You know, we can talk about relationships. We can talk about jobs. We can talk no, I have to go out and get that job. Well, yeah, you can do it that way. Okay. Or you can say, I divinely trust. I'm going to keep going with what's happening because, you know, I need to pay my bills. I got to deal with this money situation. But I'm going to trust 100% that the absolute perfect job is going to drop right into my lap and I'm not going to have to worry anymore. So what you do is you're taking that burden off of yourself and you're throwing it back out at the universe and giving it a challenge and saying, you know, come on, show up for me. Okay, I need you. Show up for me. That is working. And that is, if we talk about manifestation, it's a lot to do with being clear on your own, for your own self. This is why I keep going back to you've got to know what you like and what you don't like. I'm reading also, besides my spiritual practice, which is A Course in Miracles, I'm also reading Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, which just came into my life maybe 6 months ago. I'd never heard of it. Oh my God.
Yes.
And that first, I have the book here somewhere. I have it. That first book I mean, look at this. I've got notes on every bloody page. And what it says, what God is saying, and they're so in alignment too. A Course in Miracles and
Yes.
this book are so beautifully aligned with each other. And what God is saying is, I want what you want. Don't blame me. I want what you want. I want you to have exactly what you want. So what does that mean? You got to know what you want.
Yeah.
We can't just sit back and go, okay, God's going to take me. God's going to take care of me. God's going to take, no, that is passive. Active is saying, this is what I want. And I want this. And then you do your work. If you want to run your own business, you've got to put some effort into it. You've got to go out there and get the right place. You've got to put effort. If I wanted to have a new profession, I needed to educate myself. And I wasn't afraid to do that. I wasn't afraid of the cost because I know that I'm divinely supported.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
And you made me think of something that I just read recently in A Course in Miracles. It was talking about being very clear on what it is you want and how, it presents the ego as though the ego is something, I guess you could at least interpret it this way, that the ego is something that you're up against, I guess. The ego is the thing that's keeping you separate, that's telling this story of separation and victimhood and things like that. And that the advantage that the ego has is that it's very clear on what it wants, and it's always vigilant, and it's very what's the word, conniving, and so well made to do what it's intended to do, which is to keep itself alive. And I'm like, that is true. If I'm going to compete with my ego, I'm going to have to get as clear as it is on what its goal is. And that's been happening for me a little better. And a lot of the what's involved with that is actually not trying so hard to be clear on it and make things happen. We kind of had that. You said you got a little nudge when I was talking to you on our pre-interview phone call that I might have been trying too hard, because I was saying, why can't I have these experiences of channeling intelligent entities and things like that? And it could be that I'm wanting it too much and trying too hard and getting in my own way. So I'm learning through the course that I need to learn to let go and not try to control things so much, and that it's counterintuitive. But when you can kind of let go, the things come to you, just more easily. And that's just a beautiful. It's been so much more fun to do that, to live and lean into your faith and to trust things and to see them happen. And at least in my experience, they do happen in a kind of a very down-to-earth way, not this Hollywood mystical, magical way that I had been imagining. It's like, oh, I did want that, and here it is. And it came to me in such a subtle way, I didn't even notice it until I looked back on it. And that's another thing with a lot of people, at least that I know. And I feel like we can use that to verify to us that we are supported, is look at this job that you say you don't want now. Well, at one point, a lot of these people, these are careers. These aren't just, I got a job at a gas station and things like that. You wanted this career, and here it is. You have it. And I had that same thing happen with me multiple times. It's like, when I look back, I was handed things constantly. Why would that stop all of a sudden, So if people can kind of take an inventory of all the ways that they have been supported, it helps. It just helps kind of build up that confidence that, I've been supported and I can be supported even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a health issue come up a couple of years ago, and I was pondering, how can I express, like just the other day, I wasn't feeling that great, and I was saying, how can I verbalize the fact that I don't feel that great, right? I don't feel good now. Because, when we speak and we say, I am, that is what we are going to receive. So if I say, I feel like garbage. Okay. Then, okay, great. That I'm feeding into that feeling of garbage. It's holding me into that moment. So I don't really mean that. Strike it, reverse it. Um, but I was thinking to myself, how can I honor the fact that I really don't feel that great right now? But expressing it in a way that I can manifest health. So it came to me, I could say, I have felt vital and energetic before, and I will feel vital and energetic again. So, right, it acknowledges, hey, in the past, I've been able to accomplish this, which is exactly what you're talking about. Hey, I've done this in the past. I've gotten what I've wanted in the past. And guess what? I'm going to get what I want again. So that's one of these statements that I like to call a truism, because you can apply it to anything and it's true. So it just was born out of me feeling really badly the other day. But it's a beautiful thing to remember and to hold on to. Hey, I've made money before, and I'm going to make money again. Let's say you're going through a financially difficult situation. You're taking the focus off of the valley, and you're putting your focuses on the fact that life is cyclical. Sometimes you're going to have ups. Currently you're in a down, but you're going to go back up again. Okay? So yeah, I've done this before, and geez, I'm going to do it again. So just wanted to share that little thing with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it takes some life experience. You've lived enough years that you can start to
Mm-hmm.
get an inventory of things and
Right.
just see, yeah, this I've been here before. Everything passes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of a mantra that I use sometimes. Like it's all going to pass, good or bad. If I'm feeling good, it's going to pass too. And
Mm-hmm.
when I'm down, it will pass.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to have some life experience to see that. Um, I wanted to get into actually how I found you was on TikTok with
Yeah.
you doing hypnotherapy
Mm-hmm.
and listening to some of the things that your clients say. What are some of the more profound things that come through when you're doing hypnotherapy sessions with your clients that I guess I would say would speak to this idea that we are energetic, eternal beings that incarnate here,
Right.
and we're headed towards something that people, as of now, are calling the Great Awakening or the Ascension? What types of
Correct.
things like that are coming through?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, what you have seen on TikTok and what I share on TikTok are not my private hypnotherapy sessions, because that's something clinical. It's a little different. But what I share on TikTok is a modality that was given to me by my extraterrestrial aspects. So we are much more than who we think we are. And I hope that I don't lose some of your audience, but I happen to know for a fact that my soul is not just a human soul. I know that I have galactic aspects. My guidance are a frequency of being that have wings. There's a race out there called the Blue Avians, and we all have heard about Pleiadians if you're into extraterrestrials, and Arcturians and Sirians. So I have aspects which are splices of my soul that are on the in a planet in the Pleiades star cluster, and they communicate with me telepathically, and they told me, Anne-Marie, we want you to connect other humans with their star aspects to assist them, to do that. So that's what I release on TikTok, are these beautiful sessions where my clients are communing with whomever truly their higher selves, their souls want them to connect to. So profound, always, always beautiful messages, and always messages of encouragement. Listen, You're going to get there. Humanity is ascending. So we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. Okay. And 50, 60 years ago, there was a great musical called Hair. And in that musical, there was this amazing song that the Fifth Dimension made very popular called The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius. And that was true. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. I don't know if you remember that or not. And that's really what we're doing. We're going from one era of human evolution into another era of human evolution. So yes, we are in that beautiful period, in the transitionary period, really. And so when I connect my clients with their aspects, it's always a personal journey, but I always tend to ask, do you have anything to say to humanity? What are your opinions on this? And it's really quite a beautiful, beautiful interaction all the time.
It's that, I'm sorry, the signal was pretty choppy during that.
Yeah.
I was trying to listen as well as I could. But um, what I find so interesting is the fact that in this spiritual conversation now, we can never leave out NHI or extraterrestrial consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that it's so interrelated, it's part of the same realm. You can't talk about one without the other anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because of messages like that, they always tend to be spiritually centered messages,
Right.
whether for good or bad. You'd mentioned earlier that there's say a concerted effort to enslave humanity. And I've heard, and a lot of people have too, heard multiple times that there would be malevolent extraterrestrials who have a hand in that,
Yeah.
who are harvesting energy off of humanity. That's why everything seems to be perfectly streamlined to keep us in a state of fear. Not necessarily panic, but this low-level anxiety that just keeps droning on, while I guess they just suction this out of us the whole time. So that that's the heart of everything. The spiritual experience, which essentially is just what we are. Anymore, I say spiritual experience, that there is no other type of experience. I mean,
Correct.
the human experience is a spiritual experience. There's nothing more spiritual than coming here to experience this contrast, this forgetting, this density, and then
Right.
coming back around and remembering who you are, what you are, for whatever reason. I don't know, but I think that's so fascinating personally, and I don't think that you're going to be losing my audience as you worried, but
Okay,
I
good.
wish while you were saying it I could have heard you a little more clearly. It will be clear in the recording, but
Okay.
while you were saying it, I was just trying to focus in.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for that. What other, so when, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I just wanted to speak to the whole concept of a spiritual battle, a spiritual war that we're under. And, language is very limiting, especially the English language. It's evident. So we're at the end of a spiritual season. We're at the end of a cycle of evolution of human consciousness. And because we are in this end, you can call it an end time if you want to. It's not that it's a finite end time. It's just an evolutionary end time. Because we're there, and we are actually galactically in a part of the Milky Way galaxy where there is a lot of photonic energy being beamed at us. So our whole solar system is in a portion of the greater galaxy where we're just getting hammered. And so what does that mean? That means that anything in a low, dense vibration is going to come up to the surface. So that's why everything is in chaos. Even the normies, or if you want to call them people who have no concept whatsoever of what the heck we're talking about, everyone is able to look at their reality and go, this ain't right. Because everything is coming to the surface. Okay, everything is coming to the surface. What we can do is understand that, well, everything is an energy exchange. Okay, even when we are in love, we're still exchanging energy. Okay, but what kind of energy are we exchanging? So it behooves us to live out of anger, out of fear, move ourselves from that panic and fear of making payments, fear of losing our jobs, or fear of leaving our jobs. Okay, we have to understand that fear is the food, because we are powerful beings. We are divine creator beings. And so that fear is the food. So if you think of it that way, I'm not going to let you make me afraid. I'm going to shift my own being from one of fear and duality. Okay, you're the enemy. I'm going to remove that. And that's what the spiritual practice of A Course in Miracles teaches us, is that we're one. We need to move into a unity consciousness and understand that we are merely reflecting things off of each other so that we can learn more about ourselves. And so once we truly understand that no one is really our enemy, and that the universe, the benevolence, the love that's out there is truly in our favor, then we can shed that duality and do our little part. Because we're not going to control the government. We're not going to control the big companies. We only have control over ourselves. And so if we take that responsibility and notice what irritates us, because it's a perfect system. We know what we hold within us by what triggers us. And so if we can see it from that point of view, use the emotions as a wake-up call for the higher mind and say, wow, why are you triggering me so much? Why is this person pissing me off so much? What is it reflecting back to me? What do I hold inside of me? And 9 times out of 10, you're going to see that really what is bothering you in the external world is something that you hold as a belief in your own self. So that's why it always comes back to the self, knowing the self, healing the self, loving the self, so that we can really shed this duality, this sense of enemies, this sense of war that the global is just reflecting within our own hearts.
Yeah, I find that to be so true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the fact that the world is reflecting your inner state.
Yep.
Would you say it could be as simple as when people, worry about changing the world or things like that? Would you say that all we have to do is cultivate and take care of our own internal state, and that's
Yes.
enough? I mean, if
That
everybody
is
were
it.
doing that, it'd be a different world. Is that all a person needs to do?
In my experience and from the guidance that I have received, that's all we have to do, is just reflect,
Hmm.
is just transform our own inner, our own vision of the world. So to give you, and that's another reason why I love doing the hypnotherapy, because we're so bogged down with programming. We're so bogged down with limiting beliefs and things, and we don't even know what we hold in our subconscious mind and how it affects us as we view our world. But there was this beautiful channeling that I had done where I was given this vision of a circus tent. You know what a circus tent is? It's got like these poles,
Hmm.
and it's like that. So we truly can only control ourselves. And so if we elevate ourselves just because we elevate ourselves, we are going to pull up through our connectivity, through our energetic web, the web of energy that we all dwell in, that we're all connected through. Just by pushing up and elevating our own light, we affect the collective in that way. So to answer your question, 100% yes. Now, I'd like to also add to that, that doesn't mean that you get to ignore the world. Okay, that's spiritual bypassing. To say, oh, I'm just going to make myself happy. I'm going to go get a cabin in the woods and the rest of the world can go away. Okay, that's spiritual bypassing. We are meant to be here, to interact with each other, to learn how to love. That's our mission, is to learn how to love. And we can't love everything, or at least our reality, if we ignore it. Okay, so that's really important too.
Right. Sorry, it was cutting out again, so I
It's
was
okay.
making sure I didn't cut you off when I spoke again. But thank you for that image, that the circus tent.
Yeah.
That is powerful, really,
Mm-hmm.
to visualize it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since the signal's being so sketchy, I always want to ask all of my guests before they go, what is something that gives you hope today? What's the thing that makes you most hopeful in today's
Mm-hmm.
world?
What makes me hopeful is that we can do this, that we've got it. There is a trust that the light will win. Now, you and I and other people in our generation, or in this time period that we're in, we're the strong ones. Okay, we're the strongest of the strong. We are the souls that said, no, 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 I want to be on earth right now for this period when the entire planet is losing its mind. I want to be there. It's important, okay? Because we do have free will, okay? We do agree to come down here. And so if I know that I am here to experience this difficulty, that means that I know that I have the capability, and that we all have the capability of succeeding. And so just hold fast. Love, create, be at peace. That's all you need to do, okay? And that is very hopeful, because in the grand scheme of things, this incarnation is like this much of who we truly are. Okay, so don't let the external world get you down. Create an internal life for yourself, a life internally, as within, so without, that is peaceful and happy and joyful. And what you'll find out is that all those other things that used to get you down and that used to bother you don't even bother you anymore. Somebody cuts you off in traffic, it's okay, let them have the space. It gets better. And life gets better. And at the end of the day, we all got this.
Thank you. Beautiful. I agree with you. I feel it myself, and that's why I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
the show. And
Yeah.
thank you for this message.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to reach out to you for your
Mm-hmm.
services or to just ask you a question, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, well, you can visit me at my website, AMM for Anne Marie Morales, hypnotherapy.com. I'd also like to do a little plug, if you don't mind. I am leading,
Absolutely.
I'm leading my own tour in Egypt. I just recently went to
Oh,
Egypt,
wow.
and the tour guide, I have a degree in art history. I was an art teacher, and I am who I am. And so when I was there, I was just on fire the whole time. And the tour guide was like, I love your energy. I would love to work with you. So we have organized a tour, a 2-week all-inclusive, first-rate tour to Egypt, for January of 2027. And it is called the Chakras of Ancient Egypt Tour. And we are going from the crown to the root, traveling down the Nile, visiting all the important sites. And I will be doing my meditations, my energy work, group regressions, past life regressions. So it's going to be a phenomenal time. So yeah, there's a page in my website about that trip. I would love to have you, and it's going to be life changing as it was for me. I can't wait to go again. But yeah, all my offerings are on my website, ammhypnotherapy.com. I also have a YouTube channel, Anne Marie Morales Hypnotherapy and Intuitive Arts. And and I have a TikTok and Facebook and all the other social media stuff.
Okay, well, that sounds amazing. And I will put all that information in the show notes, and I'm sure you'll have some people reach out to you. Anne-Marie, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much. And just one last thing. We already knew each other, and we didn't even know we knew each other. Because I saw your interview with Carol Morgan.
How so? Now, I'm sorry, go ahead. You're cutting out on me.
Oh, okay. I said,
Okay.
I knew you already through Carol Morgan.
Okay, so you had seen the interview that she conducted with me as a guest.
Yes. And so we
That's so
actually
awesome.
linked in through the universe. And so look what a small world it really is. And that's another
I
proof
know.
that we are divinely guided.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. When you told me you knew Carol, I'm like, I had no idea you were affiliated with Carol at all.
Yeah.
And I just chose you, like I said, with just this very subtle gut feeling. I'm like, I feel like
Perfect.
she would have a message that would resonate with the show. So I contacted you, and here you are. Thank you
Perfect.
so much. I'm sorry that the signal's sketchy. Otherwise, I'd keep going, but thank you for your message,
You're
and
welcome.
I'll stay in touch with you.
All right. Please do. All right. And thanks, Ed. Thanks again.
All right. All right. All righty. Have a good evening.
Bye.